Hello and welcome to Too Many Movies, the podcast where we discuss DVDs, Blu-rays, and even the occasional VHS tape. I am your host, Hal, and with me here today is returning for his second appearance on the podcast, John. It's you. You're back. Hello.
Hi, I made it. I found my way in. You can't keep me out forever, you see.
I locked the door. I had all the bolts locked, and you still got in.
Yeah, I'm good at that.
I'm sure you are. Oh, well, welcome back, John.
Hi.
Glad you're here for your own episode, and William's not here. Because I did want to talk to you about movies. I feel like you have a lot to say about certain movies, and there's also a ton of movies I want you to see. So this is the perfect podcast for that.
Absolutely, because I'm a weird kind of film person where I love movies, I love to make them and all that stuff. I kind of haven't seen that many.
Yeah. And me, I've seen a lot, so we're the yin and the yang, if you will.
Yeah,
We're really dueling each other. Hey, speaking of dueling, John, you wanted to talk about the movie Duel today, please.
I did.
Introduce Duel to listeners out there who don't know what the hell we're talking about.
Okay, so Duel is from 1971. It was originally a made-for-TV movie that wound up getting released theatrically, and it's kind of special because it was the first major directorial outing of this kind of obscure guy. I don't know if you've ever really heard of him, called Steven Spielberg.
No. Who's
Yeah,
that?
I don't know, man, but this
Me
was the
stupid.
first thing he did. This was like the first big thing that Spielberg got to direct. Prior to Duel, I mean, he had done like his own stuff like when he was like a kid basically, and he had directed a few episodes of some TV shows, but this was the first like movie that he got to do, and it was a TV movie, but it was his first it was his first real film, basically. And
Yeah.
it's this very tense story. It's a very simple premise about a truck driver terrorizing a man out in the desert. And that sounds like, oh great, how are you going to stretch that into a movie? But believe you me, Mr. Stevie Boy, he stretches it out into one heckin' movie.
Yeah, totally. So I had never seen it prior to you recommending it for the podcast, obviously. I do know my fair share of Spielberg movies. I can't really say he's one of my top favorite directors, but the movies that I do like from him, I do really like Jaws, Indiana Jones, Jurassic Park. Like, those are absolutely some of my favorite movies of all time. Um, he does have his fair share of bad movies that I've seen. I don't know if you've ever seen Ready Player One.
I have not. I was just not interested at all. It's like it's getting a lot of hate, and I'm not super intrigued by the concept, so whatever.
Good. Never do. It is bad. But that's a whole other can of worms that we don't have to go into.
Yeah.
So, but I had always heard of Duel, because everybody says like, oh, it's his first movie ever made. It's like, oh, that's interesting. So I didn't know what to expect with this movie, but now that I've seen it twice technically now.
Yes.
I liked it.
Good.
Quite a bit. I don't know how controversial this is. I think I like the TV cut more than I like the theatrical cut.
Yeah.
Explain. Like, what's the general consensus on the TV cut versus the theatrical cut?
Right. Well, so just to establish, you've seen it twice because it was a TV movie originally, and it was 70 minutes. They wanted to release it theatrically. I believe the first theatrical release was overseas, and they had some weird law, like your movie has to be 90 minutes to be a theatrical release. So they had to go back and shoot more scenes to make the movie longer. The general consensus is a little hard to say. I would say I think most people would prefer the theatrical version just simply because that's what's out there. Like, that's what's on DVD and on Blu-ray. The TV version has like never really been officially released on like home media. The copy I sent you is, taped off a TV from some many years ago. But,
Right.
Personally, from film enthusiast one to another, I also prefer the TV cut.
Mm-hmm.
Because I think this movie is all about the pacing. It's all about
Yes.
that continuous, upward increase in the tension and everything. And I just think there are some aspects of the theatrical version that work with that, and there's some that really, really drag it down.
Exactly.
And I'm
Yeah, totally.
curious. I'm curious to hear what specifically makes you prefer the TV version.
Well, like you said, the pacing. Like I think so. I watched the TV cut that you provided, the theatrical cut that you provided, and I even watched the behind the scenes video with Steven Spielberg that you also provided, that you showed me. And I think I got the sense that like the TV cut was definitely just paced better. I mean, because it was intended for TV. And also, it's based off of a short story. Am I correct in that?
Yes, it was based off of a short story that Richard Matheson published in Playboy.
Right. So like it's a short story. So adapting that for movie length is very difficult. I've talked about a movie on here, off the top of my head that I can remember that was also based off a short story, a movie called The Black Phone. And you can tell in the movie version that yes, this is based off of a short story just by how much they're just stretching out this concept here.
Yeah.
Whereas I feel like because the original plan was, hey, we're taking this short story, we got to stretch it out into a TV version. We're going to make it TV length. That's why like I think I prefer that, cuz it's just like, okay, this was your intended purpose, and because of that it is a lot better. Whereas like with the theatrical cut, I didn't hate any additions to it, but I failed to see the how they improved upon the movie. So like, you know, there's the opening where like you see from the first person perspective of the car of like, driving through these highways and these neighborhoods, and then he's in on the desert highway that we know from the original cut. And it's like, okay, yeah, that was neat cuz you're watching you're watching it from the perspective of this car. You're seeing where he's coming from, but then it's like, uh, did I need to see that? No. Like, did I need to see him call his wife? No. Did I need to see the scene of him saving that school bus full of children? Not really, because it went on for 10 fucking minutes. I'm like, I know where it's going afterwards. After
Yeah.
the school bus full of children, I know he's gonna be continued to be pursued by this truck driver. So like, what is this adding to the story? Like, not really anything. I can't say it's awful. It's not like it's bringing the movie down considerably. It's just more. And it's like,
Yeah.
okay, yeah, more is not necessarily good, It's not necessarily bad, but it's not necessarily good.
Yes. And I think in a lot of other ways that can apply. It's tricky. For me, it's the school bus scene that really ruins the pacing because
Mhm.
it it's
It's
it,
just
it
10
it's
minutes.
so long. It goes like
Yeah.
it almost it's obviously not, but it almost feels improvised because like the bus driver and David Mann, they say the same things to each other over and over again, and it's like I it just feels weird. And also it feels very weird to see the truck driver, you know, be nice and helpful to other people when you contrast that with the Snake-O-Rama scene. He is absolutely willing to damage the property of other people and possibly kill other people to get David
Right.
Mann. And he's gonna, help this school bus of children to just to look good. Like it doesn't it's like it could add a dimension to his character, but it's not explored enough, and it's just this one weird
Mhm.
little slice. Um, some of the other scenes, I am torn about the opening. I think
Mm-hmm.
it works well with and without it. I just think with it, it's like you see him coming from dense society and going out into the desert. So like, you feel you are becoming isolated as he is. Where in the TV version, it's just kind of, oh, he's in the desert on the road. It's implied how alone he is, but you don't maybe feel it as much.
I
And he has
mean, you kind of do because, well, in the in the original TV cut, it's just him on the road because,
yeah,
well, that's where the movie takes place. Like, we don't need anything extra. Like, and
right.
that's where it's going to take place for like the majority of the film. Like, you have this stretch of road, and that's it. Like, I kind of prefer that. Like, just it's essentially a bottle movie, which is like you're in one location, but the
Yeah.
one location is this stretch of road, which can have multiple locations to it. So it's very clever in that sense. So I'm okay with that if it's just the big road. Any other, uh detours into anything else would just seem unnecessary, and it would ruin the pacing, honestly. So I'm okay with it, like, like I said, I'm okay with those little locations, like the rattlesnake place, like the diner, like stuff like that.
Yeah.
But that's because they're part of the road.
Yeah. Like I said, I can go either way with it. The TV version also, I noticed this most recent time. It has a couple things that the theatrical version doesn't. Like there are some times, like when David Mann first encounters the tanker truck, he has like internal monologue that we're hearing, and that's not in the
Mm-hmm.
theatrical version. And I actually prefer it without that. Like with
Mm.
with the internal monologue, it feels a little too corny, like we're being fed a little bit too much. It feels more
Yes.
more immersive without it, honestly.
Yes. Yeah, you're banking on the performance of the actor rather than,
Yes.
outright saying what he's thinking.
Yeah, and I mean Dennis Weaver, oh my god, what you could, like Spielberg said it best. You could not have anyone else play that role. He did it
Yeah.
perfectly.
Yeah, no, he was great. He was great at
Um
being this like asshole driver and then just like this crazy person. It's like, yeah,
yeah,
totally.
well he's not crazy. He's like,
Well, he's driven to being crazy.
yeah.
Like, well, driven. Haha, I
Ha ha
get it.
ha ha. Yeah, now let's also not ignore the other main character of the movie,
Mm.
the truck, because
Well, see, yeah.
the truck is more so the character.
Yeah, totally. Like that I loved how you so in that documentary you sent me, like I love the way that Spielberg was explaining like how he, quote unquote hired the truck.
Yes.
He's like treating the truck like it's an actor. And it's like, yeah, totally. Like because it is a character. The truck is the antagonist, not the truck driver. I like that they don't show the truck driver throughout the whole movie.
Mhm. Yeah, it's this certain thing that it taps into that there are some other movies that tap into too, because I this is a random tangent, but I discovered Duel going down one of those rabbit holes on YouTube where you find like one obscure movie that's just up in its entirety for free, and then all of a sudden your recommendation is filled with a bunch of free obscure movies. um
Yeah.
there's
There's
an
some gems on YouTube.
Yeah, there's another movie that I saw. It's about this like serial child abductor that goes around in his car, and you never see him either. And it's like it makes
Mm.
it so much more terrifying. Um
Yeah.
and I mean, if you're me, you know which shots to look at in Duel to say, there's the truck driver. You can see him clear as day.
Yeah.
But like, if you're not looking for that, the truck itself really is this character, and it has this horrible, growling diesel engine sound to it, and it looks mean.
Yeah. I think they did a good job at hiding the truck driver for the most part. Like, yeah, there are the occasional scenes where you see there's a truck driver in there, but like you never see his face. Like, I think for what they did, like they did a good job, like
Yeah.
at hiding his identity. Like, and I like that you do see the arm to show that this isn't like a supernatural movie. Like, there is someone genuinely behind the wheel,
Yeah.
but you just don't know who this person is. I mean, you can easily figure it out by the way that they drive. Like that's their uh biggest hint to their personality is their way of driving. I remember Spielberg was explaining in that documentary, like he described like all the license plates on the front as like kind of like as like badges of like the people that this truck driver's like driven off the road, and like he's stolen their license plates and put them on the truck as kind of like a as like a marking, like the marking of a serial killer, being like, these are all the people I've killed. And it's like, yeah, that's a neat way of putting it.
Yeah.
I didn't immediately go to that, and now that I'm saying it out loud, it's like, how come the police didn't find these like missing license plates on this truck? Like,
Yeah,
suspicious.
I mean that is a real thing that truck drivers would do. I think because like they were like registered in like multiple states for tax reasons or something like that. But if you push that away and conceptualize it as like that's his streak of victims, I don't
Yeah.
know. It might have been
No.
more of a device for him to get into the character of the driver, but it's still effective, I think.
Yeah, no, I think it's a really neat idea. I'm just being a little asshole and pointing that out, being like, that doesn't make any sense.
Yeah, I know. I mean, yeah, there's plenty of things about Duel that don't quite make sense, but it's wonderful, and I think just the way no, so was it it was movie of the week. I forget which network it was, but it was one of those things where like they would show, this
Yeah, it
this
was
is
like ABC or something. I don't
yeah,
remember.
I forget if it was ABC or NBC or something. It might have been NBC actually. Um,
One
because
of the big networks that
yeah.
don't matter anymore.
No, I think it was NBC because this film is Universal.
Yeah,
But
okay, then yeah, it would be.
I have not seen any of the other movies that fell under the movie of the week, programming. But
Same.
Duel is so well shot, and Spielberg talks about how they wanted him to shoot it indoors on a stage with
Mm-hmm.
with rear projection. And he's like, no, it's gonna look terrible. We have to go out in the desert and shoot it, and it's like it's just incredible. It's like so many things about Duel. Duel is like not the flashiest movie. It's not a spectacle.
No.
It's a very subtle, unsuspecting film. But when you look at it, it's so well executed for what it is, and it's
Oh my
very
god,
simple.
yeah.
It's a first outing, but it's just so well done.
There was several shots that they got that like did kind of freak me out. Like there's this it's hard to explain, but like there's this one shot of the truck like driving down a hill. It's going like unbelievably fast, and it looked terrifying because like when you see something that huge going that like fast, it's terrifying. Like
Yeah.
I drive on the highway a lot because that's my job, and I see trucks all the time, and holy shit, like when something that big was, if it was going that fast on the highway, I'd be like terrified to be on the same highway.
Yeah.
It's it's mortifying
It
seeing something
is.
that big, because like if something like bad happened, like it would just go everywhere, or like it's freaking heavy, so like like it would hurt. It's just like,
Yeah.
oh god,
And
like
also,
just,
like
just the way it like zooms across. I think it like got airborne 1 second, which is terrifying.
oh, maybe. And even like as an appreciator of the film and kind of a truck buff, it's even more impressive because that particular truck was hell on earth to drive. Like
Hmm.
no power steering. I think it has a complicated clutch system. Like it was a bear to drive. One of the
Yeah.
like there is a dual truck that still exists. It's not one that was actually in the movie. It was like the backup for the reshoot or something. But that truck is you can see videos of being driven. It is one of the hardest trucks to drive on earth. And that stunt driver, Carrie Lofton, was just ripping around corners with it. And
Yeah.
it's it's even more impressive knowing that, like, no, yeah, that was hugely skillful. It's just amazing.
Yeah, totally. The stunt driving especially. Like,
Yeah.
yeah. I could never.
No, oh no, I could never. I don't know, man. It's one of those movies like, if put a big truck in a movie, I'm probably gonna like it. But there's something about Duel with that truck and that story. It's like it's just perfect.
And it's an iconic looking truck. Like it has a personality to it. Like if you
Yeah,
were to tell me like the truck from Duel, it's like, yeah, I know exactly what it looks like.
you instantly know. Absolutely.
Um I guess one other thing I wanted to talk about, like one of the last things I wanted to talk about for me personally, is like the ending shot of like the way that the truck falls down the cliff. Like,
Yeah.
holy crap! Like, beautifully executed. And again, going back to that documentary you sent me, Spielberg is describing it. He actually puts in like a dinosaur roar at the end, like as it's like falling over, and it's just like, oh yeah, like it does sound like a dinosaur roar, but you can interpret it as like the metal clanking, and also just the fact that it's this giant behemoth going down. Like it's very beastly. Like it's a great bit of sound design for that moment.
Absolutely. And actually, one thing I want to comment onto that, there's an aspect of Duel that I didn't send you, and that is that the DVD, and I'm guessing the Blu-ray. I don't have the Blu-ray because they cropped it. Blech. But
Oh,
but the DVD, it defaults to a 5.1 soundtrack. Now they did not go in and like mess with the original sound to make it 5.1. They layered in a bunch of new sounds, and they're all sounds from like the 90s and early 2000s, and they sound crystal clear compared to the dialogue, and they're just it doesn't feel crafted. It just feels like a bunch of like, oh, tires squealing and rocks sounds like just slapped onto the picture. And in a lot of cases they totally muted the original sound. When the truck goes over the cliff, they replaced it all with those same generic crash sounds from the 90s that you've heard in cartoons and movies a million times. And I was
I'm
like,
assuming it's like the same ones from like Thomas or something
yeah,
like that.
it's literally some of the same ones, and it's like, wow,
Oh,
what a way to just ruin it. So
and
I sent you the original mono 71 mix because like it's like how can you look at this thing and think you're improving it by removing a lot of that?
well, that's the thing is like, he even says in that documentary, like, years later when he made Jaws and when he exploded the shark, like that, like in that scene, he puts in the same like dinosaur sound effect when it's like, sinking to the bottom. And he said like, oh, when you see the shark fin, emerge from like the cloud of blood underwater, like it makes the exact same sound as the truck makes when like the tanker emerges from like the cloud of dust. It's like, holy shit, like that's like so many parallels with Jaws, man. It's like,
Yeah.
holy crap, like this guy is actually putting an effort to make his movie his own. It's like he was doing this even way back in 71, like that, I like I said earlier that like I wouldn't really say Spielberg is one of my favorites, but it's like it's things like that that do make me really respect him as a filmmaker.
Yeah.
Like that's dedication. Like that's brilliant. And yeah, the fact that you've told me the DVD apparently just completely freaking neuters that. Like,
Yeah.
what's the point? What's the point then? Good lord.
I don't know. I really hate that. It's like my feeling is like if the original elements exist, like if you have the original tapes for the movie with like the different layers of sound effects. Okay, take that and make that 5.1. If you have to supplement it with modern recordings, just stop. Don't just keep it
Yeah,
mono. Cuz like it would be one thing if they just layered it on top. The fact that they removed completely a lot of the original sound is it's just it's like you know it's like it's special edition crap. I don't want that.
exactly. Oh my god, yeah. Like,
Yeah.
the special edition of Star Wars, like it's more than just that. Like we always attribute the Star Wars movies for like, really being butchered through those special editions, but like, it's little things like these that like really piss me off too.
Yeah.
Like the fact that you're just going to like both Blu-ray and DVD, like cropping on the Blu-ray. Are
Yeah,
you
like,
serious?
they
Oh
cropped
my
it. They
god.
cropped it down to be like because the original is in 4:3 because it was meant for television,
Yes.
and they cropped it to 16:9. And like if I don't know if you remember, like back in like the early 2000s, if you would get a DVD, they would actually like give you the option to watch it like cropped to 4:3 or in the
Yeah,
original.
I remember.
They don't give you that option with this. They crop it to 16:9 permanently. They give you the 5.1 mix and they're like, "Look, we improved it." No, you didn't.
This is this is basic shit.
Yeah.
Like for
Yeah.
crying out loud, give me the
Yeah.
option. Like if you're gonna edit it, fine. I like most people won't care. Like yeah, when I was a kid and I see like full screen versus widescreen, I didn't understand what the fuck that meant.
I
But
didn't
like
either.
now that I'm older, it's like, yeah, give me widescreen every time. Like I don't want your full screen bullshit. Give me widescreen. Give
Yeah. Well, I
give
mean,
me the black bars. I don't care that there's
yeah.
black bars. I don't care if like the fucking image is like shrunken down on my 4x3 TV and with the bars on the top. It's like
Yeah.
give me that. Like I don't care. Like
Give it to me in the original intended aspect ratio.
exactly.
It's like,
give me the original intended version.
yeah. And to that end, I think as well the TV cut deserves to be released as well as an option. I don't know why it's not. Maybe like the print is missing or something, but you know, we're kind of getting really worked up about this, but this is basically all to say, you know, things like this are really, really historically important.
Exactly.
And they need to be presented in their most true form, in my opinion.
Well, this is why I started this podcast. Like, you know, we're talking about the aspect ratio, we're talking about the sound. Like, this is stuff that we think about when we put stuff on physical media.
Yeah.
And like, this is why I want my movies to be in their best possible versions, because why the fuck do I appreciate this movie? For these reasons. And then you're taking those reasons away. So then it's like, all right, then what's left? Like, yeah, I'm watching an inferior version of a movie I like. It's totally anti-consumer. Like that is the dumbest shit you could possibly do.
And I mean, let's be real. The average person is not going to notice that, oh, hey, a lot of these sound recordings I know were recorded in 1993, which is impossible since this movie was in 71. Nobody's going to notice that. Nobody's
no,
gonna
we sound like total freaking geeks. But
at least I would say at least for the people that care, have it there. And also, whether the audience knows it or not, there is something subconscious about all this stuff. And in my opinion, because like I have a lot of the sound effects CDs that they used to make the 5.1 mix, and just listening to it, I can tell it's like they're I have a weird distinction I can detect where there's a difference between a mix that has been crafted versus sounds that have just been thrown down and exported, and that's it. And the 5.1 mix of Duel is like that. And I feel on some minor level it cheapens the experience, even for the person that has absolutely no clue about sound. So
yeah, no, totally. Again, like, give me options, like give me choices. That's all. Like, I don't care, like, you know, and this goes into like the special editions of Star Wars. Like, I don't care that there's special editions of Star Wars. What I care about is that you're only giving me them as the only option for viewing them. Like, have them available. I don't give a shit. But also give me the originals that were also intended, you know, the original theatrical cuts. Like, that's all I care about. I just want a choice.
Yeah.
Like, is that so much to ask?
I don't think it, because like fundamentally it's almost a different movie, because when you crop, and this happens a lot, when you have a movie that is widely seen in 4:3 and then you crop it to 16:9, like a lot of things that people remember, like on the very bottom of the screen, they won't be there. And like a lot of like medium shots are now like really awkward, like halfway close-ups and stuff. And you know, having the extra scenes, it's like the, you know, the feat of Spielberg's 13 Days in the Desert is the TV cut.
Yeah.
That's the one that has all the, and you know, that's the one that the editors worked around the clock on. That's the one that had its music written at like lightning pace and recorded so that it was ready. Like that's the impressive one, in my opinion.
It's the same thing that happened with The Simpsons when they first came on to Disney Plus.
Oh,
like,
yeah.
They were the episodes were crap because the original early 90s episodes were made for 4:3 TVs. And so then now all TVs are 16:9. But then, like, you know, they cropped them. So then there's this is something that has always pissed me off because it's one of my favorite jokes. But like in the episode Duffless, there's a scene where they go to the Duff Brewery and, you know, the guy's just like, here we have our 3 new beers, Duff Beer, Duff Dry, Duff Light, or whatever he says. But like the joke is that there's a pipe going into all three fucking brew tanks, and the joke is that like the same beer is going into the three brew tanks. Like that's funny.
Yeah.
But then in the cropped version, the pipe is cut out, so all you see are just the three brew tanks, and that's it. Like they're just like, here's our three new beers, and it's like, okay, where's the joke? Like you've cut out the joke because because you don't want those black bars to be on the sides. I don't care. I'm a big boy. I can handle the black bars on the sides. Give me the black bars on the sides.
Long story short, don't remove parts of media in an attempt to make it better, people.
Exactly.
So yeah, unless we're talking about removing that damn school bus scene, because I can do without that.
Yeah, I mean, it's one of those things. You're damned if you do, damned if you don't.
Yeah.
But I'm glad we are very passionate about this, because these are important aspects, and I really want people to understand that, this is important. Like, you can't just slap a movie on a disc and just call it a day. Like, you need to be smart. Like, companies need to be smart when they're like, putting these movies on Blu-ray, putting these movies out there for the public to see. Like, please.
Oh, Hal, asking companies to be smart. You're very funny.
I know. Well, in any case, was there anything else you wanted to say about this movie?
Not that I can think of. It's really good.
Okay.
I like it.
Yeah, I like it too. I'm glad we had that rant, because now you've inspired me, because I was thinking like, oh, I really like this movie. I want to own it physically, but the fact that both physical versions that you've told me about are complete dog shit, it's like, well, now I don't want it.
No, not necessarily. The DVD is still good. So on the DVD, you have the option to switch between the 5.1 and the original mono mix, but it defaults to the 5.1 mix. But
so it's like the Lion King. It's like the Lion King special edition DVD, where you actually have to go into the sound settings and play the original theatrical cut, because otherwise, if you don't do that, it's just going to automatically play the Morning Report version.
Yeah, so what I did is, like, when I made you the MP4, I just told it to not include the 5.1 audio track. But honestly, I would recommend the DVD. And actually, it's a really good looking DVD. I've noticed with some...
It is. The transfer you sent me was really good.
Some DVDs look like DVDs, and some DVDs look like almost like a slightly downscaled Blu-ray, and this is one of them. For some reason, it looks like... I've seen screenshots of the Blu-ray. Yes, the film is clearer. It doesn't have like interlacing artifacts because it's not interlaced. But like, I would still recommend the DVD. The DVD is really nice. And also, there's a limited edition soundtrack that came out a little while ago, because they found all the original tapes. If you want to have, ear-piercing violins shrieking at you on your comm drive to work.
Yeah. Oh, that's another thing. Like, the soundtrack reminded me a lot of Psycho. Just because of those violins. Like, it was very Psycho-ish, and it was very inspired.
Very much.
Yeah. All right. Well, then that's good. Then, I definitely liked it. I don't know if I liked this movie as much as you do, but I would definitely watch it again. I would. So, if you recommend the DVD, then at someday, maybe, hopefully, I'll get the right DVD, because yeah, it's a great movie. I would highly recommend anybody check it out.
Definitely. I'll send you a link.
All right, great. Awesome. We talked about Duel. We did it. We drove home the fact that we drove home the point that this movie is good.
Now, see, drove is the past tense. What we need to do is come to the present tense, right? So we're going to drive.
Yes. We're gonna drive. Hey! We talked about a movie.
We did.
We didn't talk about a movie. We have yet to talk about a movie, but
okay,
we watched a movie called Drive.
We went to the future there for a second. Yeah.
We went to the future. All right, let's bring it back to the past.
Okay.
Let's play these shitty games that suck ass.
Okay, Drive. I liked it. It was really nice.
Yeah. Okay. So you wanted to talk about Duel, and then you also wanted to talk about I remember you said you wanted to talk about a psychological thriller, which I appreciate that you wanted to bring some brains to this podcast, but I wanted to be dumb and be like, let's talk about Drive because it's about a car.
Okay, I'm gonna be totally honest. When you were kind of suggesting that, I was like, "Oh, come on, really? All right." but, but you know what? Keeping I participate in like some like groups that do stuff on social media, and it's like it's all about the theming. And sometimes it's like, man, I don't want to do themed days. I just want to do stuff just because. And you know what? I always wanted to see Drive because I had only seen a clip of it
Hmm.
in college, and I'd never actually seen it before, and now I have.
Now you have. So yeah, and I definitely wanted to talk about Drive. It's one I've had in my collection for a while. It's one I definitely consider up there as one of my favorite movies. So this is definitely one I wanted to talk about. And uh, please give me your thoughts, John. What did you think of Drive?
Um, I really liked it. It was one of those movies that it it made me feel so empty at the end. Like it's hard to no, it's hard to describe. It's like in the last moments of the movie, which probably I know, as always with this podcast, spoilers, even though this stuff is old, but
Right.
at the end when he's like driving away, it's like I was sitting there like, no, this isn't the end of the movie. Come on, no, and then the credits kept, and then the first credits kept, and I was like, oh, like
Yeah.
I put my hands over my chest, just like, oh man,
It's
like
over.
it was sadder than I was expecting it to be because the only thing I had seen of it was the real human being musical number, from
Hmm.
early on when he like takes them, driving in the L.A. River, um. And so, like, I knew obviously the movie was not just going to be a happy-go-lucky like rom-com or whatever. I knew that's not what it was going to be, but it got darker than I was expecting, and it was it's I don't know. I'm a basic bitch. I want stories to come to a nice conclusion even when they're super dark and depressing. So whenever it doesn't, I'm always just kind of like, oh. But
Yeah.
but regardless, I really really liked it. It reminded me a lot, and I'm curious if you've ever seen this. It reminded me of Punch Drunk Love. Have you ever seen that?
Hmm. I have. It's been a long fucking time since I've seen Punch Drunk Love, but I can kind of see that.
the
Okay,
the the
interesting.
the vibe of it and
Yeah.
the editing of it reminded me a lot of it because like there's so much emphasis is put on just like little awkward interactions and moments of silence and just kind of letting you
Yes.
take stuff in. It's like that is exactly what Punch Drunk Love is like. Now Punch Drunk Love is more like where it all comes nice in the end, and this is like the opposite
Hmm.
of that, but it's still
Very much.
it's still really awesome.
Yes.
Yeah, one thing that I love that it did, so it feels very immersive. It's like I usually hate movies that are really really vague and like hardly tell you anything at all, but this one does it just right. And one of my favorite things that it does is it'll like show us Ryan Gosling looking at something, and we'll just stay there looking at him looking at something for like longer than you would expect. But then
Hmm.
once it flips around and shows you what he's looking at, it like you feel like you've gotten so much more information, like because you got into his headspace first.
Yes.
um
Totally.
it's
Totally.
it's it's really 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 awesome. It is brutal. um
Yes.
like I'm the kind of person that's always like, egging the characters on, like, come on, you could do more, you could just end it now, just finish it, just stomp his head in, just kick him more than once. And then Ryan Gosling does, and I'm like, oh
Oh, he did.
yeah, he I'm not, maybe I shouldn't have wished for that.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's like I don't know. I feel I'm talking about it so surface level, but it's almost one of those movies that's a little bit hard to pin down in words. It's like
Hmm.
it's this is gonna sound so pretentious, but it's an experience.
No, 110%. It is an experience. It is a slow experience. Ironically, because it's called Drive, you think it's going to be like this action packed, Fast and Furious esque kind of like driving movie. Um, but no, it is a slow, methodical, personal story about a guy who drives a car. It's like, it's that's why like in a sense it is very polarizing. Like on Letterboxd it's got a 4.0 rating, so it's well liked, but then you go into like the top reviews and the most popular review on Letterboxd is like a 1-star rating, and then you go through the reviews and it's like 5 stars, 4.5 stars, 4 stars, 2 stars. It's like all over the place.
Yeah.
And I 100% understand. Like, I was kind of thinking you wouldn't like this because it is a bit slow, but I'm glad that you did like
Oh,
it.
I loved it.
Yeah, no, because like I think it does have a lot to it, and I feel like it in a sense it's kind of like, movies like 2001 or Citizen Kane, where like people will watch it for the first time, with this idea in their head that like, oh, it's considered one of the greatest movies of all time, and then they watch it and they're like, that was stupid. And it's like, yeah, for your first time, and with the idea that like you're living in a culture that tells you it's the greatest thing of all time, and so then you have like these high expectations, and so then when you watch it you're just like, this sucks. It's like,
Yeah.
but you need to understand, like, yeah, there's a reason that it's highly rated. There's a reason why 2001 and Citizen Kane are regarded so highly. It's because they do things really well. Like, whether or not you see those things upon your first watch through, that's entirely up to you, but completely denying it is just, really, really so reactionary in my opinion. And obviously I'm not talking about you, John, because again, you said you really liked it. But this is just something that bugs me a lot with, with film culture, with review culture, analysis culture online. But like, I mean, complaining about the film community online is like, my bread and butter. What can I say?
Yeah. I think what might be a lot of it is people going in with preconceptions about it, and then when it's so
Yes.
slow, when it's so atmospheric, they're like, I don't like this. I love it
Yes.
for what it didn't do. And
Mm.
this was one of my absolute favorite things about the movie is when it's high intensity, there's no music.
Oh yeah, that's a good
Right
point.
at the
So
start, the first car, big car thing, the robbery heist thing, there
mhm.
is just a little bit of music. There's just like a little beat going on in the background. And at the
Tick of the
end,
clock.
yeah, and at the end, his big final showdown thing with his car, there's no music. There's absolutely no music. And
Mhm.
I just think that's so refreshing. And it does something interesting psychologically, because when you have like, big, jung, 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 like big pounding drums, it's like you're like, yeah, let's go.
Yeah.
Oh,
Let's go.
yeah. Like you're panting along with them. You're like, yeah, let's go. We're motivated. But when there's no music, it's like you're holding your breath. It's like you're
Yes.
just like, and you're just sitting there. You're just like, what's happening? What's gonna happen next? Oh my god! Oh my god! Oh my god!
Yeah.
It's like, I'm exaggerating it, but it's just like it, and it gives so much more room for things to happen, because there's not like this like set rhythmic pace that things have to happen at. Um,
I agree completely. Like, yeah, so I love this movie's score and its soundtrack. Like, not just the soundtrack, because I do like the songs. I'm a sucker for synthy, poppy kind of like uh stuff like that. Like, it sounds like it's from the 80s, but it's not from the 80s. Like, I'm a total sucker for that kind of music. And
yeah,
there's a lot of songs like that in this. Like Night Call, Under Your Spell, A Real Hero. That's like the big song from this movie is A Real Hero, the real human being
yeah,
song. Like,
yeah,
it's been it's been in memes, it's been in all sorts of things. Like, it's the movie's most famous song. But I do like, the score itself, how it's like this kind of ambient synthy sound to it. And like you said, like, I am a fan of when there is no music. Like, I think the movie is just as impactful when there is no music, but it is also very impactful when the music is there. So like you said, with like the opening robbery scene, I love that opening robbery scene because I love the song that they play.
yeah,
It's called "Tick of the Clock" by the Chromatics, and I thought it was a Drive exclusive, like it was exclusively for the movie Drive, but it's been in other movies, like, because I think like a year or so ago, I watched what was it, Taken 2, and there's a scene when Liam Neeson is like walking through like some Bizarre or something like that. I don't even remember what he was doing, but like they start playing Tick of the Clock, and I'm like, what the fuck? This is from Drive. And then I looked it up, and it's like, yeah, it's like a real song that they put in other things. Like they put it in like some shows, and they put it in Taken 2, and it's like, but it works so well in Drive. Like I thought it was the Drive song, you know.
It's an
So
excellent choice. It's like
oh my god, it's so good.
it's perfectly restrained song choice, because like, you know, if that was made at some other time by some other person, they would have put in like a like Freebird or Highway Star or something like that.
Exactly. Well, see, the funny thing is because the opening to this is in some ways is very similar to the opening of Baby Driver. Have you ever seen Baby Driver?
I have not, although I did watch. They uploaded like the first 5 or 10 minutes for free. I did watch that, but it didn't really grab me.
Really? Oh, I highly recommend
It's
Baby Driver
I
because like I love that. It in some ways it's like the polar opposite of Drive, but I do like it a lot. Like I think I I go back and forth with which one I prefer, whether I like Baby Driver or Drive. I feel like Drive is a little more has a little more going for it, so like I appreciate it on like on an artistic level, whereas like Baby Driver I appreciate from like its filmmaking aspects, and like it is just a movie that not only can I appreciate from its filmmaking aspects, but I think anybody could watch it and enjoy it because it's like it's an Edgar Wright film. Like the dude makes some really good movies.
that he does.
But like, you know, that movie opens up, yeah, it does open up with a very fast-paced song. It's Bell Bottoms by I forget the name of the band, but like you said, like yeah, it's like this very fast-paced kind of song and because it's like a very fast-paced edited scene. So like that it makes sense. Whereas like here, you know, they kind of restrain themselves. They go for a more restrained song, they go for a more restrained situation. And I feel like because this movie is a lot slower, it works because of that. You know, Baby Driver is definitely a lot more crazier, so like that opening works very well for it. Whereas here, yeah, this opening works well for it as well. Which is why I think like, you know, Drive and Baby Driver are kind of like, you know, different sides of the same coin. Like they're very similar movies, but, you know, one is going for something completely different, the other one is going for something even more completely different. But they do those things very well, I
Yeah,
think.
I can see that. Um, I mean, granted, I judged Baby Driver quite harshly just based on like the faintest of impressions on it. Pretty
Yeah.
much just because I didn't think I would like the main character, the kid driver. There's
Mm-hmm.
something about him was just like, nah. To contrast that, and to talk about, you know, being restrained, let's talk about Ryan Gosling, man.
He's so good.
He hardly does anything with his face, and he gets so much across.
Yeah.
He has this level of subtlety where like you'd almost think he's not doing anything, but
Right.
he gets so much across. It's like it shouldn't work, but it does.
Yeah,
He is
totally.
incredible. He's incredible at playing those very closed off characters.
Yeah. Have you ever seen Blade Runner 2049?
I have. Now I've only seen that and the original Blade Runner once.
Okay.
And to clarify for anyone that might yell at me, the Blade Runner that I saw was at the time the most recent version. So this was like whatever like the most recent version of it was like.
So the final cut?
Yeah.
Oh,
Um.
don't worry. Like everybody likes that cut. Like
Okay.
nobody likes the other versions.
I know.
So you
I know. Believe me. I know people don't like the original versions at all. My roommate showed me this one because he said this is like the best one. But granted, I've only seen both once. I
Mhm.
actually preferred 2049.
Mm. I've heard that sentiment before that people prefer 2049 over the original. It has been years since I've seen either.
Yeah.
Now granted, I do love the original a lot, so maybe I just like it more because like, you know, it's the same reason why I love the original Star Wars over Empire Strikes Back. You know, everybody prefers Empire Strikes Back, but I am an original boy. I like the original. But
Yeah.
I, the Blade Runner movies I need to see again. I own them both on Blu-ray and DVD. I need to make an episode on them, but that's, you know, far off in the future.
Yeah. I should give it another chance too. But like, it's for me. again with Blade Runner 2049, it's Ryan Gosling and Ana de Armas.
Yes.
Like they are what I remember about the movie. I don't remember anything else about the story, but they're those two, their interaction, that's what always stuck out to me about that
Yeah,
movie.
no, I love them too. I love Ryan Gosling in that movie. And yeah, I agree. Like he's very good when he's muted. Like when he does stuff like what he does in 2049 and what he does in Here and Drive, when he's just like, he's very quiet, he's very timid. And that's great because he gets a lot out of like just his facial expressions, even though he looks very stone faced in his facial expressions. But like,
Yeah.
he still gets across so much. And then when he's not very timid, when he's like, shaking from being so violent, like that scene in the elevator when he's like smashing the guy's head in and then like he turns around and he looks like he's going to fucking burst. It's like, holy shit. Like that's terrifying,
It's like
but it's
like
so good.
it's a you can tell he scared himself.
Yeah.
He's so closed off and he let it all out, and even he can't even process what he just did. It's like it's like, this guy is clearly a very strong guy. He has so much restraint because he hardly ever talks, hardly ever shows emotion, and he is shaken, and it's just amazing. And it's like I don't want to mean this in a mean way. I want this to be a compliment, but like if you look at just like a still shot of Ryan Gosling or just like a single shot out of context or whatever, he looks like he should be a terrible actor. It looks like it shouldn't work at all. Like he's just there to be a pretty face, but oh my god, he's so
I know
good.
that's the thing. There are some actors in Hollywood that like look like they're only there because of their chiseled good looks and their like, star power. Cause like when you think Ryan Gosling, like he sound like everybody knows who Ryan Gosling is. So you associate him as like an A-list star where he's like, oh, he's just famous and like he just plays Ryan Gosling in every movie. It's the same thing with like Brad Pitt. It's like, oh, he just plays Brad Pitt in every movie. It's like, yeah, sometimes that is the case, but like there are those performances that they do that are really good. Like Brad Pitt does have some genuinely good performances under his belt.
Yeah.
12 Monkeys, Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, stuff like that. Like same thing with Ryan Gosling. Like, yeah, this movie, he's really good. Like this is an example of him really, playing to his strengths. Like he's so good at being this like quiet, timid driver. And like, then there's like the elevator scene where he like totally lets it go. There's that scene where he's at a diner and like some guy approaches him being like, hey man, like we have a job we want for you. And he's like, how about this? Shut your mouth or I'll kick your throat down or I'll kick your teeth down your throat and shut it for you. It's like, holy shit. Like,
Yeah.
whoa.
Yeah.
It's a great scene. It's a great way to like show like just how powerful this character is.
Yeah. It's great. I loved it. And it's like, he gets tangled up in this situation and he's trying to protect people, and in the end it doesn't really work out for him. And it's like but throughout the whole thing I was rooting so hard for it to work out.
Yeah.
And
I was surprised by how much I was rooting for like Oscar Isaac's character Standard. So
yeah.
the boyfriend, like, in any other media, like he would be just like this irredeemable douchebag character, but like they actually give him depth, and that's a testament to how good of an actor Oscar Isaac is. I don't know if have you seen any other movies with him in them?
I don't think so.
Have you ever seen Ex Machina?
No.
Ooh, that's a good one. So that's one that really, like, Oscar Isaac in that movie, so good. He's so good in that movie. That's a very good Alex Garland movie. I highly recommend that.
Yeah, I liked him too, cause like he defied the expectation. Cause like the first time you really see him and Ryan Gosling interact, he's sizing Ryan Gosling up. He's basically asking, "Hey man, you sleeping with my wife?" He's like,
yeah.
he's trying to like intimidate him, and like the next time you see him, it's like that's all gone. He's just totally become relaxed with this guy, and he's like, it's like I just thought that was so interesting. It's like, okay, they showed him in his moment of weakness defaulting to what he might do, but then they showed him come back from that, and him and Ryan Gosling like actually genuinely team up, and that was really, really nice. And it's like, I could tell. It's like, okay, wait a second, we have Ryan Gosling, who is likable, we have Standard, who is now likable. They're both a potential romantic interest for Irene, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's like, oh god, how on earth are we gonna? Because like
Wow.
I'm rooting for both of them now. You know, it's like, man, I want Standard to do good, but like Ryan Gosling is better for her. But oh crap, Standard's dead.
Yeah. It's just
You
like,
know,
oh.
it's like when that happened, I was like, oh, it's like this movie just keeps slapping you in the face.
It does. It is it does a very good job at that. Yeah, but like that just shows you just how well written these characters are. Like no character is a throwaway character. Like
No.
every character has something to do. You know, Shannon, for example, Bryan Cranston's character. You're just like, wow, like you think he's like this mentor character, but he's kind of a fuck up himself because he's like always smoking. He's like, you know, kind of has like a bit of a gambling addiction. He's just like he's like a total dumbass. You know, he's nothing like, you know, Driver's Obi-Wan Kenobi, which is what you'd think he would be. You know,
Yeah.
Albert Brooks is in this movie, the voice of Marlin from Nemo, and he plays a fucking mob boss, and
Oh,
he's
that was him.
great.
Oh,
That's
wow.
Albert
Okay.
Brooks, yeah, voice of
Okay.
Marlin. He did a couple of voices on The Simpsons. He was Hank Scorpio.
Right.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, he's been around. And then Ron Perlman is like this other mob
Yeah.
boss, but he's a total douchebag. It's like the
But
like so
even him, he is like one of the most evil characters, and
yeah.
yet once he is put under insane pressure, you start to like empathize with the situation he's in. It's like, wow, you suck, but also this is like a really tough situation. It's
Yeah,
like
no,
oh my
it
god, it makes you question so many things.
I know. It's not a very black and white movie. Like it treats you, the audience member, with respect. It's just like you are smart enough to know that, you know, we're not gonna you're a smart person. Like we're not gonna like spoon feed you this. Like we're gonna let you just experience these characters and just like the situations they get themselves in. And I like that.
Yeah. Yeah. Just awesome movie. Awesome movie. I loved it.
Totally, totally. Do you have anything else you wanted to say?
Um I'm not sure.
I know it is a lot. It is a lot to ask, and maybe I should have been taking notes. But like, I mean, I feel like I'm gonna be returning to this movie a lot. So like, you know,
Yeah.
there's loads to talk about. We can't possibly talk about everything. I will say, we could go right into like talking about it, the Blu-ray I own it on because I do own this on Blu-ray and
Okay.
stuff.
Sure. I bought the Blu-ray as well. And by the way, this do you know if this was shot on film or was it digital?
Oh, I couldn't tell you. I
Okay.
really don't
Well,
know.
regardless, it looks beautiful.
Oh my god,
I
yes.
usually really don't like movies that go for that like really kind of amber kind of golden hour look.
Mm-hmm.
I don't like the orange and teal look. But
Mm.
this movie looks really really good with it.
It does. Yes, it certainly does. It has a style to it. It looks great. Yeah, I completely agree.
Yeah. So, let's talk about the Blu-ray.
Yeah, so I happen to have it on a Steelbook Blu-ray case.
Ooh, fancy.
Yeah, and it looks awesome. I love the coloring. It's like black and pink, and it's just Ryan Gosling's head on the front. It looks fantastic. And the steelbook is in nice condition. I love steelbooks. They look nice. And when I was watching the movie itself, it looked great.
Mm.
Now, unfortunately, it is distributed by Sony. And the reason I say unfortunately is because there's like a shit ton of trailers before the movie, and I I personally don't like that when there's like a shit ton of trailers before a movie. When I'm just like, can I just get to the movie, please? So like, I've just learned to just skip through them all. But like, man, I don't know. Like when it's something like Drive, I'm just like, this doesn't deserve like a billion trailers before it of like inferior, stupid movies. You know, like if it was something like, I don't know, like your generic Sony direct to DVD action movie with like an aging action star just doing it for like a tax write off. It's like, okay, put as many trailers as you want in front of it. I don't give a shit. But like when it's something like Drive, when it's like this movie's too special to be treated like any other movie in your pantheon. You know what I'm trying to say?
Yeah, it's one of those things, and I think this might even speak to some of the reviews, but it's like it's a movie that I'm gonna sound so pretentious. It's a movie that can only be looked at as art and not a product.
No, I completely agree. Yeah, it does sound pretentious, but like, I mean, come on, like,
It's not like, okay, this is a pretty standard thing, I know what to expect. It's like it's like you're not walking up to like the movie shelf in the supermarket and picking up the name brand thing that you're used to that's always the same flavor. It's like, no, it's something different than that, and
exactly.
it doesn't. Maybe that's not totally connected to the ads or anything, but it's like it really cheapens it. Having ads always cheapens the experience. And actually, something
Yes.
I've been wanting to say this to somebody, so here we go. But um, I have ad block on my computer, but I watch a lot of YouTube on my phone, and
Yes.
I just want to say this to whatever brands might be listening to this well-renowned podcast here. Okay, if you advertise on YouTube, I am guaranteed to hate you and never, ever, ever buy your product.
No, dude, same. I say the exact same things. I am more likely not to buy your product if you advertise it on YouTube. Like, honestly, like
Like,
it is. I am so like the amount of fucking like Grubhub ads I get, or the amount of fucking like college ads I get. It's like I am less
yeah.
likely. Well, first of all, I'm less likely to go to a college because I've already graduated college. But like I am never gonna use fucking Grubhub now because it's like you're
No.
wasting my time. I don't care. Your ads and even then, like if you're gonna advertise, make the ads good. They're not good ads. They are
No.
terrible
Nothing
fucking
is memorable anymore.
boardroom bullshit. It's so terrible.
Like, oh man, we could do a whole podcast just talking about ads, but
I know we could,
but
but
like,
yeah,
I'll just say this. Go look up, if you're able to, go look up like it's like a 1992, 3, 5, something like that. It's a commercial for Milky Way or Mars bars. They use the same commercial and just change the lyrics for one part. But like it's advertising a candy bar, whatever. But
hmm
the commercial is structured of little vignettes of people, like, like a husband and wife on their wedding day, still all dressed up, swinging on a tree swing, or like people like a dad, a wheelchair bound dad at the beach with his kid, and like it's all these wonderful little vignette moments, and it's like the lyric is making life a little sweeter, Milky Way,
yeah,
and it's like that. It's such a beautiful little thing. Whereas now, it would just be like I'll tell you one ad that I hate. It's a Liberty Mutual ad, and
okay,
they literally say right to your face, we don't care about being honest, or not honest. We don't care about being sincere. We're gonna actively show you how we're being insincere. It's the one where they say, like, studies have shown that commercials that are nostalgic are more likely to be memorable or whatever, and then so the guy holds up like a Game Boy and says, use Liberty Mutual, and it's like, oh my god, we've gotten. It's like we had like Super Bowl commercials where it had to just be so weird and out there, and we've like
yeah.
devolved to this point where it's literally them telling us how insincere the commercial is. It's
We've
like,
got we're too postmodern now, you
I
know.
know, and that just, it's like Drive is having to exist in a world like that, where it's not just propped up by capitalism and consumerism and ads and all that. It's like it's too good for something
Yeah,
like that, and it's
yeah.
like, I don't know. I mean, this really isn't related to Drive at all, but I guess
No,
it taps into something that both you and I clearly care
yeah.
about, which is caring about things, which which it's
No,
like,
absolutely, absolutely.
it's obviously very tempting for you and I to say, "Oh man, the '90s things were so much better," but you know what? There is a space for objectivity to say, no, you know what? Stuff is kind of insincere now, and it's all ads and crap. And Drive
hmm
is as sincere as they come.
It's interesting because like I feel like when I was listening, I've listened to like an episode of Sardonicast. I can't remember when. I can't and I could not tell you the episode, but like there's like a question that they were asked. It's like, what would you consider to be like a modern classic, like a movie that's going to be considered, a classic down the line upon the likes of like 2001, Citizen Kane, The Godfather, Pulp Fiction, and one of the movies they said was Drive, and it's like, yeah, totally, like
That
that's a movie
fits.
from the 2010s that like totally fits that criteria for like becoming a classic. And it's like, what other movie from the 2010s? I mean, there's others from the 2010s I would consider. Me personally, I like stuff like Baby Driver, Blade Runner 2049, The Lighthouse, like Spider-Verse. Like I would probably consider those my favorites, but whether or not they're classics, it's kind of hard to say. Drive, completely, like, yeah, that's a movie that's a favorite of mine, but I would also consider like, high up there as like will definitely go down in history as like a classic. So
Yeah. And I will say
we
I have not seen the Spider-Verse, but to put a positive spin on all this, from what I have seen and more importantly from what I've heard of what it meant to other people, there is still space for stuff that's made with passion and care because it seems like
oh dude,
Spider-Verse is one of them.
I gotta show you Spider-Verse. You gotta come back for like the Spider-Verse episode, dude, because I
I
want you to
should.
see
I
that.
want to see
and
it.
and the second one's coming out this year, so like we should do like a double feature of
Like
that, like the
I
original and like watch that.
I don't have any care in the world for superheroes or cinematic universes or any of that stuff. But
Hmm.
just like the stuff that I've mainly seen it through Corridor Digital do like these videos of like VFX artists react to great and bad CGI, animators react to great and bad animation, and they've had it's like they've done some reactions and had some professional animators in to talk about like Spider-Verse and all the interesting little things that it does, and it's like, wow, this
Yeah.
this is not just like a Spider-Man, but there's more of them. It's no, they actually did some
Yeah.
really cool things with it.
They did. Yeah, I'm totally bringing you back for the Spider-Verse episode then.
Awesome.
But anyway, to wrap up this episode, I do have Drive on this nice steelbook, and I did want to mention I also have the soundtrack on CD.
Nice.
It was one of the first soundtracks I ever bought. I don't think it was the first. I think the first one I ever bought was the Blade Runner 2049 soundtrack, um, which is also a Ryan Gosling movie. But this was definitely one of the first ones I ever wanted, I'd ever owned. I was listening to it yesterday while I was editing a James segment, and yeah, no, it's a fucking fantastic score. So I'm keeping the Blu-ray, I'm keeping the CD for the soundtrack because it's really good, and I highly recommend anybody just even if you don't buy it on the CD, like I don't know, I'm sure it's on Spotify somewhere or wherever you kids listen to your music these days, you know, totally recommend. But yeah, I'd say that's about it. John, so you have it on Blu-ray. Do you want to talk about that a little bit?
I do, yeah. I just got, whatever the normal Blu-ray was on Amazon. It's like Ryan Gosling standing on the right and it's like the street at nighttime. It's just a regular Blu-ray. It's not a steelbook
Yeah.
or anything. It's not, 4K. I don't even know if that is a thing, but um I like it. I will say, like when I ripped it. See, I ripped it, so I didn't have to sit through all the ads. I just popped open the file and like, hey, it's
I
the
know.
movie. But
Yeah, you're smart.
I know. Well, I mean, also I don't. Computers don't like playing Blu-rays because Sony is like, haha, copy protection. But
Yeah.
anyway, so I noticed it had a lot of extra content on it, and like to be honest, I really don't have any interest in watching any of that. But the movie itself, I love, and I'm definitely gonna keep the Blu-ray. Um,
Great.
there's very few movies that I would buy a physical copy of and not keep. Um,
Mm.
I mean, if I had to if I had to watch it for like a school assignment, okay, but um, yeah, anything that a friend is willing to recommend to me, I'm probably gonna keep.
Nice.
So yeah,
I'm glad you liked it. I'm always happy to spread the word on the movies that mean a lot to me. So I'm glad there are people out there who love Drive. And I will continue to watch it and love it for years to come.
me too. I'm gonna give it some time, but eventually I'll come back to it.
Yeah, nice. All right. I think that about does it. John, please, shout out your stuff.
Stuff. Yes, I make stuff. As I said in the previous episode, I am sort of from the Thomas the Tank Engine side of the internet, which, if you find that weird, yep. But if you don't, if you don't, you can find me on Twitter, at JHRAWKS
Rocks.
I have a YouTube channel that will be linked in the previous episode, so you can go there, you lazy silly. Yeah, and actually, I mean, just briefly, I just wanted to say this. I didn't want to bring up like Thomas or Tugs earlier because it's like, man, there's a time and a place, but you know what? That time is now.
Okay.
So we're talking about like, the Duel truck is like an actor, and Spielberg very much treated it like an actor, and it was honestly the same thing when they made like Thomas. Like, they weren't just like, oh, it's just like little model trains, whatever. It's like, no, you put Thomas on the track, you fire up his remote control eyes, and he's a little actor. He goes to work and does his acting, and it's like it goes into like, people putting care into these things, and like seeing these inanimate objects as characters that, even if it's just a framing device for them to do their work, it brings it to life so much more. And that's one of the things I love about Thomas. I don't watch it because it's like, PBS baby garbage. I watch it because, models are cool.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah,
I totally get that. I mean, that Thomas model is what I remember as a kid. So
yeah,
there's some truth to that.
So I do that kind of thing. If you're curious, I even though that's what I do it very infrequently because, good Lord, I am tired. But
Me
yeah,
too.
you can find me out on the internet somewhere.
Yeah, I'll link all of those in the description below.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I don't know when this episode's gonna go up because we're recording this a week late. I'm recording this. I was sick as well. I'm recording this the day after I recorded the episode with Chaos. So, and I just uploaded the episode like today. So I may not release this until like Saturday. So let's say something that'll age it. The new Clone High pilot got leaked. Cringe.
No way, really? I didn't know that.
Yeah. Oh wait, you didn't know that? It
no,
did.
No.
It looks bad, apparently. I'm sorry. Oh, I'm sorry for ending this on bad news. I'm sorry, okay, John.
Let's just be honest. Who thought it was a good idea during a pandemic to bring back a show that caused a hunger strike in India?
You know what? It's a good point.
Like, who thought that was a good idea? Clone High.
Nothing bad ever happens to the Kennedys except he got canceled. Okay, bye everybody.
Okay, bye-bye.